Ever since the RE4 remake released, we've been waiting for some huge news. And to be honest, it's really just been one big guessing game. Are we getting Resident Evil 9 next? Or maybe we're getting a Code Veronica remake next? We don't entirely know, and that's the fun part. However, we do have some info and teases that might lead us into the next RE game. Capcom just hosted a showcase where they showed off some new stuff, like the mobile version of Resident Evil 7, but they did also give us a tease into the next Resident Evil game. Ladies and gentlemen, today's video is packed with content. I'll be going over some leaks that came out recently, talking about when we're most likely getting RE9, and of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Drop a like if you're excited for Resident Evil 9, and let's get into it. So as I said, Capcom just hosted a showcase, and I just got done watching it about 10 minutes ago. When Capcom announced the showcase, they told us exactly what they're showing off. All they were going to talk about was the RE7 iPhone version, Dead Rising, and that other new game that's coming out. So nobody expected RE9 to get teased at all. The director of Resident Evil 7 was given some insight on the development, which is actually pretty interesting. It's always cool to see what the developers' mindsets are when they're making these games. And if you're unaware with the developers at Capcom, in my opinion, this is one of the best guys that work at Capcom. He sat down and talked about RE7 and the challenges that they had to face. He goes over what makes Resident Evil, well, Resident Evil, and at the very end, he says this.
We're making a new Resident Evil. It was really difficult to figure out what to do after 7, but I found it. And to be honest, it feels substantial. I can't share any details just yet, but I hope you're excited for the day I can.
But the best part is they don't confirm that it's Resident Evil 9. He just says the next Resident Evil game. Now, I'm going to be honest, I still believe it's RE9. I just don't see how it wouldn't be. And the best part is the guy that directed Resident Evil 7, the guy sitting in the chair, he's the one that's directing, or at least the main lead on the next Resident Evil game. There were some Resident Evil 9 leaks that came out not too long ago. The leaker basically said that Jill Valentine was going to serve as like a secondary character, almost like a co-op partner to Leon. So kind of like Resident Evil 5 where you have Chris and Sheva. Well, RE9 is going to be Leon as the main character and Jill is going to be the co-op partner. Apparently late last year, Capcom kind of had this debate internally where Capcom is apparently debating whether Jill should be a co-op partner or not, which is interesting because I would like to see a Leon and Jill team up game. I mean, a Leon and Jill game would go crazy. A lot of us really want to see Jill back in the mainline series, especially after, you know, her appearance in Death Island. But I think the biggest rumor is, when are we actually getting this dang game? So Dust Golem actually gives us some new information on Resident Evil 9 and talks a little bit about its development, and it's actually pretty interesting, but it does make sense, so here it is. In summary, at one point Resident Evil 8 was a spin-off game. It was still a sequel to Resident Evil 7, but it was a spin-off. And because Resident Evil Village's development was going so well, Capcom decided to turn it into a mainline game. Thus we got Resident Evil Village. However, that little concept or spin-off that they were working on, they still kept it as its own thing internally. And so now that concept that was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 8 then turned into Resident Evil 9. So basically, originally RE8 was supposed to be RE8, and then it was shelved, and then a new RE8 was in development, which is the one that we got now. And so now that old RE8 concept has been re-brought to life, or re-brought back to life if you want to say that, and now it's being developed as Resident Evil 9. And there's an explanation for this. So basically, the original Resident Evil 8 concept was supposed to use open world technology, and the reason why Capcom didn't go through with it is because obviously it would take a lot longer to develop a Resident Evil game when you're making it open world. And that same open world technology that they planned to use for Resident Evil Village, they went on to use for Dragon's Dogma 2. And in 2019, Resident Evil 9 was an open world style game set on a Southeast Asian island. And at one point, Capcom did think about dropping the numbers from future Resident Evil titles. So instead of Resident Evil 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they would keep the same style that they did with Village. Just call it Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil Apocalypse, or Resident Evil whatever. There were rumors a while back that Resident Evil 9 was supposed to be the end of the series, which is not true at all. I can tell you that right now. I mean, that's not even a leak at that point. That's just common sense. You really think Capcom's gonna end the series like that? No. What Capcom wanted is they actually want Resident Evil 9 to be a closing chapter for several plot points. So I'm assuming they probably want to retire some characters, maybe kill off a character. Hopefully not, but you know. And this is because Capcom wants to move on to something new. RE9 apparently has been rebooted in development sometime after Resident Evil Village came out. I'm assuming probably because of some of the backlash that Village got, because even though a lot of us do like Village, there's also a lot of people that don't like Village. So that probably made Capcom rethink some things and probably change some things around. So it makes sense that it got, rebooted or whatever you want to call it. The game was originally planned for a Q1 2025 release, which we all know. And here's the interesting bit. Capcom is hoping that Resident Evil 9 is the first non-remake Resident Evil game to get the critical and fan reception that Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 got. And they also want Resident Evil 9 to innovate on the franchise. I truly believe that this is Resident Evil 9. I mean, what he's saying here in this clip, like, what else could it be? It could be another remake, but I don't think we're getting 2 remakes back to back. After everything that Capcom has been saying, after everything that Dust Golem has been saying, it sounds like Capcom is ready. Like they want to get this game out there. It's not ready to get announced yet, which is why they're waiting, but it sounds like Capcom is like really ambitious about RE9. It sounds like they're really excited about it. It sounds like they really want to get it to us. But of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Subscribe to stay up to date on all Resident Evil news. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.